Welcome to Capital Talk, a program we hope will have an impact on the future of Kenya. And now, more than ever, I'm Jeff Koinange. Now, a few weeks ago, when we did a program focusing on women MPs, we got a lot of emails and text messages from you, the viewers, saying it was a great week and you wanted to see more of our women leaders on TV, on Capital Talk. Well, we're going to honor that pledge this week, all week, women politicians and where they are taking this country. With my guest today, we're going to begin with a dynamic young lady. When I say young, she's 36 years old, and already she's made an impact in the class of 2008. She's an interior designer by profession. In 2002, made a conscious decision to get into politics. She'll talk about that shortly. 2007, ran for the Kasarani seat, did not make it past the nomination, but was later nominated. And this is where she says she fits in. She feels this is where she's meant to be. Dynamic young lady. And as people say, she's not just good looking. She's smart, she's ambitious, and she has a lot at stake for this country. We're going to find out more about that with my guest today, nominated Member of Parliament, Honorable Rachel Shebesh. Madam, good to see you. You're only 36. This class of 2008, I love this class. It's so dynamic, it's so young, it's so full of energy.
And it's not only the class of 2008 as they call it. Parliament has very many young members of parliament. And I don't know why we are not making a big hue and cry about it. Because the truth of the matter is Kenyans this time did elect young members of parliament. Deliberately.
Yeah.
They did go out, if you look across the board, in parliament, especially, let's say, MPs from Rift Valley, very young, younger than myself.
Really?
Oh, yes.
And they're smart and ambitious.
Smart, ambitious, know where they want to go. They are focused. Really, the 10th parliament should revolutionize this country.
Yeah. And we're not just talking about the Ababu and the Mwambas or the people we see every day on TV.
There are many others. That's what I meant. There are many others, because not everybody is on this, the opposition grouping, as you call it. But there are very many young, dynamic politicians. MP for Nakuru Town, also Lee Kinyanjui, young, dynamic. MP for Cherangani, Kutun, young, dynamic. There's MPs from Northeastern Province, very many of them, very young. I mean, so it was a deliberate effort, and it means that the effort we did put in as young activists in the campaign period did make a difference.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
People watching this show, how does an interior designer switch gears and concentrate on politics?
How does anybody who is not a politician decide to go into politics? You know, many people go into politics for so many different reasons. I know many who go into it because maybe they inherit the position. Others probably because they have always been in some sort of leadership position within the constituency. But I made a conscious decision. I decided that I'm going to go into politics and I'm going to take it professionally as a profession, and I'm going to take it seriously, just like I was taking my interior design seriously. And this for me was a conscious decision. Many people have different ways of going into it, but mine was conscious.
Yeah. So you made that decision in 2002. You were 31 years old. 5 years later, you decide, I'm going to go for Kasarani.
Oh, yes.
Tell us.
When I started, I went into the women's movement. And when I went into the women's movement, I found out that also the youth movement in the country was also lacking in people who are focused. So I managed to dabble in both. I was an activist for both women issues and youth issues. Then I realized when we were trying to agitate for many things that if you don't get into the position of leadership, you could be an agitator and you could have good issues, but they will never bear fruit. And I realized that not many people were willing to take that bold step to go into local authorities or to parliament. And I said, well, what's stopping me? Because if I've decided to be professional at this, I might as well take it to the top. And the top means look for a position of leadership. So I started by being elected in different bodies of the women organizations and the youth organizations. In my political party, which was then LDP, and then we went into ODM, I made sure I was at the forefront of political organization in our party for the youth and for the women, and eventually for Nairobi. But then I decided, you know what, I need to concentrate because I want to be where the decisions are made, because good decisions are made in this country, Jeff. We have beautiful, beautiful papers on everything, everything, but so never implemented. And I decided I'm going to be there because I know how to push issues. I believe I'm good at getting things done. And so let me go there. So what is the way? civic seat, local authority seat, or parliament. So I had to think about it. And because my father was a councillor for many years, I thought maybe I could start with the council. When I looked again at the caliber of the members of parliament we had at that time, I did not see why I couldn't fit in parliament. So I said, you know what, I'm going to skip the local authority, but I'm going to support very many people. And I did support very many people for civic seats in Nairobi.
Yeah.
And then go to parliament.
In the beginning, Mheshimiwa, was it difficult getting your foot in the door?
Very difficult. I tried being courteous. I tried, writing letters, looking for appointments. At the end of the day, I just had to bang the door down to get in, unfortunately.
Is this what discourages a lot of women?
Oh, yes. Women, young people, they think that somebody's going to create the space for you, that if you go there and you look sharp and you know what you're saying, which we always do, somebody's going to say, what a brilliant young woman. Why don't we use her? Never will that happen, Jeff.
Why not? I mean, that's the obvious thing, because when you talk about grooming, when you're talking about tomorrow's leaders, that's what you're looking at, right?
Exactly. It's because of the kind of political leadership we've had in this country. We have had a political class that has always revolved around patronage and, who knows who. It has never been issue-based, but now we are definitely moving issue-based. When you look at all the time we have had a new parliament, there was always a civil society that was brought into parliament. And as soon as they came in, they kept quiet.
Yeah.
And they became part of the, status quo.
Yeah.
But for me, and I believe for many young people who are now in parliament, we're not going to let that happen because Kenyans are holding us accountable. And this time Kenyans are also very educated. The Kenyan voter of today is definitely not the Kenyan voter of 10 years ago.
And they're getting smarter.
Smarter by the day. They ask you questions. They expect a lot from you. I mean, look at what has happened in this parliament in the last few months we've been there. Would that have happened 10 years ago? Definitely not. No.
So you don't get past the nominations at Kasarani, and you went discouraged.
I took three weeks to get out of my house, Jeff.
Oh.
Because I am human. You see, Jeff, when I came into LDP, I came because I looked around for a party. At that time, we were at Bomas during the period when we were trying to get a new constitution. And at that time, we were all NARC. And I had gone into this system through NARC. And I looked around and I attended many caucuses, which were actually the different groupings. And I decided this caucus called LDP is speaking my language, and this is where I'm going to go. So when I went to LDP, it was conscious, knowing how difficult it might be, but maybe I was also a bit naive. But I believed in the system of LDP, I believed in what we stood for, I believed in the leadership, I believed in it because it was also cutting across tribes. And that's what I really wanted. I wanted a place where I was comfortable, cut across tribes. And I went on until ODM, and I worked for the party, Jeff. I really did work for this party. I didn't want to be taken in because, tokenism, she's a woman, let's help her. No, I wanted to prove that I could do well. And during the referendum, I was the coordinator for the Orange Movement for Nairobi. And at a time when everybody thought that Banana was going to win because, the government was on its side and everything. Nairobi being cosmopolitan as it is, everybody said, this is where we are going to gauge the strength of this Orange. And so it was really left in my hands. And because, of course, we had no good structures, everything was really me coordinating it. And I delivered 7 constituencies. Out of 8. In the referendum, we only lost Dagoretti. And that's when people stood up and took notice and decided, we do have somebody here who can deliver. So after all that, and then going through the process of nomination in ODM, and seeing a farce, and feeling betrayed, I had to take time to rethink my strategy and to think, am I in the right place at the right time, and is this where I want to go? And the processes that we took as ODM to get people out of that feeling, I believe, were very, very fruitful, because the party did admit immediately. The party with the party leadership immediately agreed that ODM nominations were a farce. So I didn't have to feel bad because everybody admitted it. It was not only in Kasarani, it was across the board. Yeah. But then we agreed, what is bigger? Is it bigger, Rachel Shebesh and having to be an MP for Kasarani, or the change that we wanted to bring in the country as ODM in new leadership? Yeah. And that is what to me was bigger than everything else.
But clearly, you weren't discouraged.
I was. I was definitely, I'm telling you, it took me 3 weeks to get through the discouragement, the disappointment, the feeling of betrayal. Yeah. But there are 2 things that really made me get out of this. One was that the nomination had gone to a woman. And I, as I've been a woman activist, I thought, you know what, it's still a woman. I'm sure this woman will deliver for Kasarani, and I know her very well, and she's my MP now, and that was one reason. But the other reason was I didn't want people to feel, I didn't want to be an example of how easily you give up when life becomes difficult. You don't have to get everything easy. So I wanted to prove to myself, my community, and the young people and the women who are looking at me as an example, that you know what, look at what has happened to me, but I still have a focus. What is my focus? To bring change to this country, to make sure women are recognized, to make sure young people become the engine that drives this country, etc. So then I had to make that painful decision.
So when the nomination came about, were you surprised?
No, because I immediately, when I decided to come, when I got out of the 3 weeks of depression, when I went back, I did put some things clearly on the table to the party leadership. And I said, listen, ABCD is what has happened and you know it, but I'm still in the party. I still feel that where I wanted to represent Kenyans was in parliament, not as an ambassador to whatever, or, you know, because the party will tell you, oh, we'll give you a job. Yeah. I said, that's not what I wanted. So I said, you know what? This is still where I want to be, in this parliament. And I do know you're going to have women's slots for nomination. And, you know, I did have, you know, as a politician, you have followers. And my followers were very clear. We wanted our member of parliament in parliament. So if you want continued support, also, you know, look into the issue of our leader. So basically, I was, from the very moment I came back and decided to continue campaigning for ODM, because I really did now campaign for the other members of parliament and my member of parliament to get into Kasarani. I made sure that we had rallies and we were all over the place, and that we were making sure that we were winning the Nairobi seats. I knew that in the party leadership, they knew that I still wanted to be in parliament, and if they had any nomination slots for women, they were going to consider me. So I was quite, I was not 100% confident, but I knew that I probably will still be in that parliament. Yeah. Yes.
So this is where you were meant to be, right?
Ah, definitely. Every time I go into that house, I know this is where I was meant to be. Oh, yes.
It's incredible. A moment ago, Mheshimiwa, you mentioned tribalism and ethnicity, right? It's no secret. You are a Kikuyu, married to a Luya. Was that a plus for you during the campaign, or was that a minus, or did it level itself out? Because Kasarani is split.
It's split in, yeah, it's one of the most highly populated constituencies, yes, you know, and very cosmopolitan.
Yes.
You know, the issue of ethnicity for me, first of all, you know, it was never a factor. Jeff, believe me or not, many people in Nairobi who are born and bred in Nairobi don't understand this being labeled Kikuyu or Luo. It is politicians who bring up these feelings up to a level where the first thing somebody asks you is, what is your tribe? Many people in ODM, up till my nomination, did not know I was Kikuyu. Some MPs actually, when I came into the house, they were honest enough to say, you mean you are a Kikuyu? If we knew, you know, I mean, it was like,
are you serious?
Oh, yes. I mean, that's how easy it was. During the campaign for Kasarani, it's the first time, I mean, we did posters. Of course, you have to do a poster. And I decided I'm going to put all my names on that poster. Rachel, Wamboy, Shebesh. And people were blown away.
You're saying this is a Kikuyu?
You see, we've been saying she's a mole, you know.
Yes.
And so for me, it's played on both sides. It's been positive for me, it's been negative for me. But I have never harped on the issue of my tribe. Never. Because what am I harping on, really? I've never done it.
This is the future. I mean, this is the way we should be thinking,
right? Of course it is the way we should be thinking. Yeah. It's unfortunate that I have boys, I have children. And I feel sad sometimes when I even hear my child speak about who they might marry in terms of tribe. And I wonder, how does that come in? Because when I met my husband, I didn't know whether he was Luo, Luya, Kisii, or Kikuyu. I just met a man who I fell in love with. Later on now, when I was going to get married, when my parents are asking me, it dawned on me, you know, what is his tribe actually? And where then issues now start coming out. Sure. But I don't think many people really think along those lines, especially our generation. I don't think they do. Yeah.
I want to talk more about that, Mheshimiwa. And also the fact that you are a family of 5 and, you know, you never got much attention as a child, so this is probably a way of you getting attention. And I know you have a lot of issues to discuss as well in your parliament, but first let's take a break. My guest today, where did these women politicians come from? class of 2008. I love it. Dynamic, smart, ambitious, and going places. Beginning with my guest today, nominated Member of Parliament, Rachel Shebesh. She is dynamic, and that's what we're talking about all this week on Capital Talk, only on the award-winning station K24. We are back in a moment. Welcome back to Capital Talk. All this week, it's going to be one fascinating guest after another because we're talking to women politicians, the class of 2008 that's driving this country forward into the future. Beginning with my guest today, nominated Member of Parliament, Rachel Shebesh. So, growing up, family of 5 kids, you felt a little left out of the equation, didn't you?
Well, yes, not that my parents did it deliberately, but you know, when you're in a family and you have sort of the middle child somewhere, sometimes you have to look for attention. And I believe I did that quite well as a young person. But I believe it also probably is what made me become very questioning and a person who has to sort of struggle to get what they want. Yeah. I think it perfected what I'm doing now by being a person who, you know, I question a lot. I question anything. And I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but some people have called me a rebel. But I believe now I'm a rebel with a cause.
Absolutely. And when you first told your folks that you wanted to go into politics, because your dad was a politician, first, what did your dad think?
My dad was very excited, extremely excited, because I think every politician has this wish that one of the children, you know, will take up from where he has left. Because politics is such a social thing. When you do it as a politician, you leave your mark all over the place. And sometimes I think you feel a bit sad that when I go, you want to tell me none of my children or somebody close to me will be able to follow up. Already, by the way, myself, the work that I've already done as a politician, I'm already wondering myself, who am I going to leave this legacy with? But I'm happy to know that for me, it doesn't have to be my family. If I could mentor another young woman who can, you know, be as ambitious as I am and a go-getter and be able to deliver for the women of this country and the young people, then for me, it doesn't have to be my child. But for my father, he was quite excited.
I can imagine. Okay, at the same time, there are less than 24 women MPs in the House, right? 21, which is an improvement from the past, but still nowhere near where it should be. Is there hope that this will increase? Are you there to encourage others, or you think it's so tough when you get in there that people get really discouraged?
No, it's not tough. It's not so tough. Let me tell you. It just depends on whether you want to be serious about what it is you want to achieve. When we were going into these party nominations, one of the things that ODM and PNU and all these other, ODM Kenya, all of them in their manifestos had said that they are going to ensure that there is a 1/3 representation within their nominations so that those women then come into parliament. For example, in areas where ODM was strong, which was our stronghold, we could have done some affirmative action to ensure that we nominate women. And that woman would have been the member of parliament. And where PNU is strong, they would have done the same. ODM Kenya, where they were strong, because they knew as long as you had the ticket for that party, you're in parliament. And that's what we call affirmative action. But you know what? These people, it's all PR when they're doing it for campaigns to get women on their side, but they're not sincere. They're absolutely not sincere. When I got into the House, we have the Women Parliamentary Association that we caucus around. And these women will tell you it's difficult, Rachel, we've been there, and I agree with them, it's been difficult. But have we ever decided that, you know what, let's put our heads together and decide that some things in Parliament must only happen if the 1/3 affirmative action principle is adhered to. And I think if we did that, as women, we may be 21, but that's a block. I mean, some parties only have 14 members of Parliament. Yet they're a block that is never ignored when there is consultation or negotiation for anything. You know, you will find that, you know, there is you've seen like now Martha Karua with Hanak Kenya. That is a block that will not be ignored. So if we, as women politicians, parliamentarians, the 21 of us, we became a block that this will not happen unless 1/3 is implemented. For example, when PSs were being appointed, we could have said, you know what, this cannot happen because all women parliamentarians would have put our foot down and said, we have appointed 6 permanent secretaries, where is the representation of women? And until we do that, Jeff, we don't have anyone else to blame but ourselves. I don't believe in blaming men all the time. I believe men, yes, have a role to play in ensuring that we get the equitable distribution for women and the young people. But I don't think that it is really their responsibility, because they don't feel the pain we feel as women. We are the ones who feel marginalized when we go places. We are the ones who feel our issues are not being addressed. So therefore, we are the ones who must take the lead.
I'm glad you mentioned Martha Karua, because I was going to bring that up. The fact that she's already campaigning for 2012.
Excellent. Excellent, because as a woman, you have to do 20 times what a man will do. All these men who we know want to be president, and they're pretending to be very, we know that all they will need is 2 years before the election to come out, because men are already accepted as leaders in this country. Any man, doesn't matter whether he has the qualifications or not, as long as he wants to be a leader, because of our, cultural background as Africans, a man is ready. But a woman, you have to do 3 times more. So Martha starting now, for me, is excellent. Because then she's going around the country telling people, I want to be president. So let people first digest the fact that Martha Karua wants to be president. Then 2 years down the road, she will now be saying, these are the issues I'm going to address as president. I 100% think she's doing the right thing.
And you don't think she'll burn out along the way?
No, for women, we don't have that choice. She probably will burn out in terms of resources and energy, and maybe getting her people around her being taken away. All that will happen. But as I'm saying, Jeff, she has no choice. She's a woman who has been in politics for long, very experienced. What she's doing is not a mistake. I am sure Martha has sat down, thought about it, been advised by people who know what they're doing. Martha is not making a mistake by coming out. People are saying she's coming out too early. Believe me, for her to even have a chance in 2012, she needed to start speaking about her ambitions. Actually, she didn't speak about them now. She actually started last year before the elections. Yes.
That's incredible.
Yes.
You would say that. It's incredible.
Oh, yes. And for me, what I already want to do, at least within, let's say, our party circles and within what I'm doing, I've already started voicing it. Because don't wait for 2012, because then it will be too late.
Do you want to be president eventually?
No. I don't think so. I've never felt the calling to be a president. I don't think everybody needs to feel they can be president. I really believe that there are so many issues to tackle, that we must have some people who are willing to stay focused on those issues, and somebody who can be broad-based. I don't know whether you understand what
absolutely.
I'm saying. And for me, a presidential candidate must be somebody who can unite a country to a level where any weaknesses or strengths she or he has, the people are willing still to move in that direction. I would want to be a person who sees deliverables. And that's why I believe what I would really like to be in this country is a minister. I would love to be given a ministerial portfolio.
Anyone in particular?
Ministry, the gender ministry and the youth ministry. And I would combine them. Because I think the Ministry of Gender and the Ministry of Youth, really, I would call it Ministry of Women and Youth Affairs. I would not have apologies to make about it, because countries where they have really done well on issues of affirmative action, the ministry is called Ministry of Women Affairs, because it is issue of women affairs they're dealing with. Yeah. But let me tell you this, that I have realized that there are so many issues intertwined in issues of women, youth, people with disabilities, marginalized communities. If you see now, Northeastern Province was given, Northeastern Province and its frontiers, have a ministry now. Why was that done? Because they realized there's a problem there. When Ministry of Gender was set up, it was because they had seen that there's a gap in dealing with issues of women. Youth, the same. But they put it as a PR, and I still say that, without the relevant departments that helps them implement the policies that they are coming up with. So I would want to be able to turn around ministries like those. That is what, for me right now, I would say my biggest ambition is. Yeah.
Mheshimiwa, do you see the day when Kenya will have a woman president or prime minister?
I see, by the way, very soon having a woman prime minister. Because if the trend is, and if we're going to follow the Bomas draft, for example, and it will be the party with the largest majority, which will probably still be where the president is, I believe we are going to reach a point as women where we are going to put so much pressure that we are going to insist. If we can start implementing affirmative action, to get a woman prime minister will not be a problem. Because if a man will win presidency because Kenyans maybe are not ready to elect, then that party can nominate a prime minister who is a woman. So for me, a prime minister's position is much faster in what I can see. A president, as I said, women, we will get our act together. Kenyans, we need to educate them. And maybe in about 20 years, we could see the election of that. I know women will kill me for saying this because everybody thinks, yeah. But after I've gone through what I've gone through as a woman, gone through elections, sat down with people who I thought were very educated intellectuals, and yet some of the questions they're asking me have nothing to do with my capability, but the fact that I'm a woman.
20 years.
20 years.
God willing, we'll still be around.
Oh, yes. To see it.
Yes.
Yes.
At the end of the day, is this a good time to be a politician in Kenya?
I don't know whether the other times were not good times. I think there was a good time to be a politician in Kenya was during the multi-party, when we got multi-party. I think that, yeah, early 90s must have been a good time to be a politician. And if you talk to the likes of James Orengo and Gitobu Imanyara, they will tell you that was a time when really, I think this is the only other parliament that's probably coming up the same way that the Orengos and did when they were backbenchers and forming what they were called young Turks. Probably this, what we have now in parliament with the formation of the grand opposition and etc., is probably the closest that has come to. So it's really exciting because for me it's almost the same time. We've never had a grand coalition government. So it's really exciting to be in this government right now. Yeah.
I think it would be unfair to not ask you this question, Mheshimiwa, because you are a mother, you have teenage kids. What's going on in the schools now? The strikes and the burning and the craziness, the madness.
What is going
Jeff,
on?
let me tell you, I actually the family business that I came from is running schools. That's what we've been doing. So I do know quite a bit about schools and the issues of discipline. And I'm so totally disappointed with even the way the ministry is handling it. You know, for me, first of all, it's obvious that today morning, from the news, I saw another 3 schools. So it means by evening, we'll have another 2 schools.
Correct.
Isn't it a crisis to you?
Absolutely.
Do we not have a ministry for disaster management in this country? Because it's obvious the Ministry of Education has no clue. You see the kind of task force that the minister did put in place yesterday was put in place a few years ago, headed by Naomi Wangai. I'll never forget, a lady who did a good job. So this task force, I told you we have very good documents. We have everything. We know exactly what's going on in schools, Jeff. There is drugs, drug barons. The biggest catchment area for them is high secondary schools. So we know it is an issue of drugs. We know it is the issue of shortage of teachers. We implemented a free secondary school education system without looking into the issue of teachers. You cannot have a school that is supposed to have 50 teachers having 10 teachers. And then you think that they will be disciplined in that school. I also don't want to take away the responsibility of parents. Yes, I want to take that. But you see, there's a government in place that should first deal with this disaster before we start blaming parents, go back and look after your children, etc. I agree with that. But what I'm saying is, I think a disaster should be called. We have over 300 plus schools that have gone on strike. I think it's a disaster. And you know, when you declare a disaster on any issue, it allows for more funds to be put in. It allows for more expert thinking to be put in. Now the Ministry of Education is using the same civil servants that have been there, who to me are part of the problem, really part of the problem, to solve a crisis, which to me they are part of the problem and created it. I would want Naomi Shaban's ministry now to come in, because I would want us to declare this a disaster. I have a son in Alliance and I'm worried. I'm quite worried. Could they be next? Yeah. Could they be next? And when that boy died in Upper Hill, I said, are we waiting for children to die? Are we waiting for children to die, Jeff? When people bring petrol into a school, because all these places are being burnt, there's kerosene being brought in, there's a problem. And to me, it's a disaster. Yeah. And I think before even we go into issues of it, let's first declare it a disaster. Let's put into place police protection in schools where there's even a hint. Because this is where I'm saying, if you declare it a disaster, then the Ministry of Education can say, every school where there's even a hint of this, 24-hour security. And get the students. You know, the NACADA yesterday said that they're going to have a system of fast checking if you're on drugs very quickly. I don't know what that system is. But then if the disaster is called, NACADA can then get those kits available, because money will be pumped into it. Get these kits available, take them to all the schools where there is that kind of a thing, and test who are the drug, and take them for rehabilitation. Because we do have rehabilitation centers in this country. But let's not let our system of education down because we want to follow what we have done for the last. It's not working. Correct. It's not working.
At the end of the day, these are future leaders, aren't they?
Exactly. 10, 20 years
from now. Yes. But, Jeff, I want you to look at the education system. You know, when we went to school, we had enough teachers, definitely, number one. Number two, there was never an issue of whether you're going to do exams or not. You have to do exams. And the issue of being disciplined was part and parcel of the culture of going to school. But now, because of the shortages of teachers and etc., and the kind of things that are going wrong, today we have students who are being churned out from schools who I really don't know who's going to employ them.
Yeah.
I really don't know. Because I sometimes, when I'm employing people, they come for interview. And already the letter they have written, and this is a graduate, for example, of Kenyatta University, coming to look for a job as a teacher. And I go through I can't believe it. And I have to look up and ask, are you a graduate? Yes. I read the letter again.
The typing mistakes,
The
English,
grammar,
the grammar.
and this is the person who's applying to be a teacher of English literature. Cannot even write it. So there's something wrong with our education system. And we need to be brave enough to say, hold on, let's also relook at the kind of quality. We don't have to churn people out and say everybody's getting free education. What is the quality of education we're bringing out? Let's be honest to ourselves. I don't think we're doing the country a favor just by saying, okay, you can all come to school free, and then when I go out, I become a headache to my parents because I can't get a job. Yep.
Bottom line, Mheshimiwa, with all the energy that you have right now, I know there are a lot of young women watching you tonight who want to be the next Rachel Shebesh. What do you tell them?
I tell them, go ahead and be the better Rachel Shebesh than Rachel Shebesh is. Go ahead and be. I am ready to mentor. I have been saying this, and I thank God that there is an organization called Youth Agenda that has agreed to partner with me to start a mentorship program. I want to mentor people. I want you, Jeff, to mentor young Kenyans who want to be journalists. I want you to mentor them. I want the CEOs of big companies to mentor young people who want to be great in business. And to me, mentorship is everything. And so if you want to be Rachel Shebesh, go ahead and be better than Rachel Shebesh. But don't let anything stop you, for example, by thinking that I'm not either in the right tribe, the right community, or I'm not in the right space at the right time. You have to create all those factors for yourself.
We wish you all the very best. Well done. My guest today, not just a pretty face. Good Lord, she's ambitious, she's smart, she's young. And guess what? She feels no threat. If anyone wants to be the next Rachel Shebesh, she says, go ahead, because there's nothing as important as continuity. And that's what we need in this country. And with a class of 2008 like this, I tell you, this country's future is bright, but our leaders have to acknowledge that. This country is going places if we let the young take control when the time comes. What a fascinating week. We started off on a high note with nominated Member of Parliament Rachel Shebesh, and it can only get better on Capital Talk, only on the award-winning station K24, where we are all